Perfect.
Okay, so you're the vocalist for Marble Ghosts.
Yep.
Tell me about the album. It's a five song EP and it just came out March 1st.
Yep.
It's got some pretty heavy content on it. Um, Tell me about the songs and actually tell me first how your band came to be.
Sure. Well, basically, my old band of about 10 years had broken up, and I was obviously looking for something new. And I I'd done a couple covers. I'd done like a couple Soundgarden covers, and then my future guitar player, Adam, he had some recordings that he had done, but like a long time ago, say like 7 or 8 years ago, which is pretty impressive if you think about it, because he's only 25 years old. So he wrote Alone and Old School, which were the singles on the EP when he was like 17 years old. So they were sitting on a hard drive, and basically he sent them to me. And this day and age, it's really easy to collaborate. So I recorded some vocals over it, and he really liked that, and we met, we got along, and despite the age difference and everything, we get along really well. Like our band is multi-generational.
Yeah.
So like I'm a in between a Gen X and a millennial, right on the cusp. Adam's obviously a millennial, and we have two Gen Xers in the band as well, and we all get along well. And yeah, so the band really sort of started that way with Adam and I, and then we found Jer and Paul soon after that. So yeah, it's crazy. I hadn't really thought about that, but he wrote this incredible riff, like super catchy riff when he was like 17 years old. Like
Also, you
that's
wrote the music too with the lyrics?
not the lyrics,
Okay.
no. I wrote the lyrics and the vocal melodies, but Adam did all of the he did all the guitar work, and he went to school for music production, so he put like a easy drummer kind of thing on there, but he did the bass and everything too, and I thought it was great. What's funny though is that he called it cheese because he thought it was cheesy. Like it was part of a bunch of songs that he was doing that he termed as dad rock. I don't know what that means exactly, but yeah, he said it was super cheesy, but that was the one that he kept, and it was sitting on his hard drive for like whatever 7, 8 years before he sent them to me.
And
So
what does he think of them now then?
he loves Alone. Like
Yeah.
it really turned out well. Obviously, everyone plays their part in it, but he brought all the guitar parts to us for it. And Jer will do he'll do some arranging. Like Jer's really good for that. Like he'll say like, okay, what if we try this? He's a drummer, and he'll say
Yeah.
like, okay, what if we try to do this part like twice, or what if we build it up this way, kind of thing. Like he's got a good he's not I guess an ear for that. And Paul is just really great at filling out, because we only have one guitar player, so he's
Hmm.
really great at filling out the space. He's really like he's not like a he's very technically proficient, but he finds the places. So he finds the places like where like he's basically like the equivalent that I would like Jerry Cantrell, but on a bass. He's picking all the right notes that just elicit that emotion, right? That just
Hmm.
evoke that feeling kind of thing. You can hear that in Alone in the chorus. Like he pushes that chorus.
Well, I do
Uh,
hear a lot of that in
yeah,
there. I do hear a lot of grunge influence. I know that's your influence,
yeah.
and everybody comes from different backgrounds too. So how do you decide wh what style you go with, or is it just kind of a new type of sound that you guys come up with, or everybody brings something to the table, right?
I'd say like everyone really brings their own their own style to the table. Like
Okay.
Adam's very much kind of like Avenged Sevenfold, like metalcore, uh, like early to mid 2000s kind of
Hmm.
thing in terms of the guitar. Obviously, I'm coming from like a grunge more background. Like I love like Lane Staley and Chris Cornell. Uh, they're incredible. Jer, like he's been playing drums since he was 11 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, so he grew up liking Michael Jackson, and both he and Paul both grew up like liking Motley Crue, but Jer got huge into Metallica. So Metallica is like one of his big influences. But he likes, like sometimes the guys will put like Iron Maiden randomly in practice, and Adam too. He really likes that. So I think I think there's definitely like, and Paul too, like he Paul listens to everything. Like he also does like solo projects in kind of goth like industrial kind of, but he also does like false chord kind of scream vocals as well in some of those projects. So and but yeah, like Paul listens to everything. So I think that really helps is that we it wouldn't work if obviously, we had hugely diverging musical tastes, but it works in a way that creates, I think, a unique sound and something where, we're taking all of this, like Jer's a death metal drummer and Paul is very much kind of like a power metal guy. And like I said, like I'm grunge and it all like comes together and it works, which is interesting because like, people have compared us to oh, this kind of sounds like Breaking Benjamin, or it kind of sounds like, I hear that, but I hear something else too. I hear it kind of goes beyond just like, oh, what people were listening to in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, like it definitely there are elements that I do hear. Like I do hear Alice in Chains, especially in the false heroes on your vocals.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you've heard of this yet, like if anybody's compared you to Life of Agony, recent stuff. I've heard I can hear that in there too, but I do there's a different sound that I can't just put my finger on right away, but I've listened to it about 3 times now, all the songs,
Nice.
and there is a different sound overall, and I can't figure out. I mean, it's your sound, really. I mean, it's not a different band. Like, it's not like, oh, you're like Alice in Chains, you're like this, but there's a different sound overall, especially with the lyrics too that you guys have.
Yeah, I mean, the lyrics I like to think of as like I have a very like unapologetic way of writing
Yeah.
lyrics. I'm not I'm not going out of my way to offend people. I don't think that as artists we necessarily should do that. Yes, push boundaries,
Hmm.
but I mean, like I was talking to someone about a show recently that they had gone to where one of the bands was like they had video um of like Hitler, and they were talking about like 9/11 conspiracies, and they had this video of like people jumping from the twin towers.
Yeah.
And to me that isn't sending a message so much as it is just trying to be disruptive, trying to be uh, controversial for the
Hmm.
sake of being controversial. Whereas, like, I'm really trying to empower through the music. Like, old school is basically it's a fuck you to the people who tell women what to do with their bodies and who tell trans people that they can't exist,
Hmm.
basically. Like, that's. that's the way and just like that love can exist in kind of all shapes and forms.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like I'm not trying to make friends. I'm not trying to change these people's minds either. And I know like a lyric like fuck your god is extremely controversial.
Hmm.
Like we'll never get radio play. We'll never get Blues Fest with something like that, but I don't care because to me, I want the band to be as genuine as possible, and I'm not going to be censored that way. And I'm really glad the guys they don't censor me. And I have been censored in past bands where it's like, oh well, you can't say that. You might make people upset. And it's like I want people to think. But at the same time, like with a song like Old School, I want people who have lost that power to have a song that is like almost an anthem to say, hey, we're with you on this, and we're in this fight with you against people who are trying to take your rights away, who are trying to take your existence away. I mean, think about that, is that
Hmm.
um like one of my cousins is trans, and you know early on, there just wasn't an acceptance. People were dead naming him, and it's like now, he's well adjusted, he's uh, doing well, and it's like, yeah, like if you dead name people, you're basically saying they don't exist. You're
Yeah.
saying that the person that they want to be doesn't exist, and so accepting that. So, and like, it's not anti-religious either. I don't see it that way because not all religion is against abortion, or even just like reproductive rights, um, and the idea too of like homosexuality or trans people or just different ideas of what sexuality is. So to me, it's about pushing back against that. And like I say, it's unapologetic in the sense that, like, yeah, I'll tell you, you fuck your God. Like, I'm just sick and tired of people saying in this day and age that, you have any right at all to say what a woman can do with her body, or that people just can't exist. Like,
Hmm.
fuck you. Like, seriously. And I want the Westboro Baptist Church to hear that. And I want those mega churches in whatever Texas and the super I want them to get that, and I want them to hear that message so they know it. So and I don't care if, the band gets hate comments and whatever. Like we're gonna be hitting TikTok hard with this message in the next couple of months. And I don't care because I want them to feel uncomfortable that you know, maybe what they're thinking is, and like I said, okay, maybe I'm not trying to change people's minds, but I would do want to introduce a level of discomfort with the idea that you have a God that can hate, that can spread hatred that way, and basically tell people what they can do. And that's it's such an interesting sort of dichotomy that way, because they're also the people that don't like to be told what to do. you
Yeah.
know they're also the people who say, like, well, our God, we want to be able to worship the way that we want to worship. We want God in school, and we want prayer to be in school, and things like that. And I don't have a problem with that. Like, it's the same idea with like Muslims having the opportunity to pray, having access to prayer rooms and things like that, during the workday or during the school day. If someone wants to pray, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the idea of like, oh, you don't like being told that. Well, you know what? These other people that you're saying don't exist, they don't like that either. And so it's really kind of introducing a level of discomfort into the discourse to say basically like, like in 2024, why are we still holding these institutions and these old values that really control people to such, you know, a high degree of like, why do we give them so much power? That's the idea of, and it's a vocal minority. Like
Hmm.
they are a vocal minority, and that's where that kind of the art comes from. Like I know you wanted to talk about the art, and basically, Edith the Fluet, she did an incredible job on the art, and it's a broken church
Hmm.
because the ideology is broken, but it's also the fact that more and more and more people are leaving the church. Yes, there's still pockets of obviously in the United States there's a huge amount of sort of zealots and people who believe there's a large um, sort of um, evangelical part to that religion, and obviously that's something that isn't going to change kind of overnight, but more and more their numbers are going down. There's more Hindus, there's more Muslims than there are evangelicals in the world, and as much as they probably wouldn't like to have that fact, it's true.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, like that's the one thing. I grew up Christian and I didn't understand why, or Catholic, sorry. I didn't understand why there was a God that would hate people that were made in his own image or her own image or, its own image because we don't know exactly what it is. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I've been questioning that since I was a young kid. And to see the world that it is today, there is hope, but there is a lot of things that need to change. And, this is your art, so you can definitely put your art out there this way, and maybe people will listen too, because it's not like you're standing at somebody's house with a sign and saying this. It's more of something where you think, but the music also helps too, where it is an art form that you're doing. So it's a good thing that you're doing. I enjoy it.
To me, like, and there's nothing wrong with music that's just fun.
Yeah.
But I just don't think I'll ever write music that way. To me, there's a catharsis in it. There's a feeling of, like, I'm very empathetic, and I feel powerless at these forces that are controlling others and making their decisions for them. And uh, you know, I hope that the music empowers them to feel like, hey, there's someone with this message that's basically saying, like, okay, we're sick and tired of this vocal minority ruling us, essentially. So yeah.
I think that's why, yeah, that's why I actually picked up on the Life of Agony too, because if you know, do you know the band
I don't.
that the singer actually transitioned a couple years back, and yeah, they're very accepted. I think they have like messages in their music too about being, having to go through all this stuff and
Yeah.
being scared about transitioning. And I don't know. I picked up on it just by some of your vocals, just some of the lyrics, and but that's not the only thing you cover in your music too. There's also the schools and that happened, and with Sir John A. Macdonald and all that stuff too. So I think your music
Yeah.
has a lot of different messages.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's all about, though, like, we're never gonna punch down. Like
Hmm.
that's something, like George Carlin said, never punch down. And that's why, like, when there's jokes about trans people and jokes about vulnerable people, I just don't get that. Why do we joke about things like that? And I get it. They don't want to censor comedy. They want it to be something that can evolve, right? Um, but yeah, so in terms of Johnny McDonald, yeah, I'm glad that you recognize him. He is on our money, and his name was formerly on our what do you call it? It's on
The
a
street, yeah, one
Queensway.
of the streets here too, or one of the,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It used to be the John A. McDonald Parkway,
yeah,
and now they've changed it to, excuse me, an indigenous name. Uh, and I can't remember the name of it. It starts with a W,
yeah.
but yeah, I was happy to see that. So yeah, I mean, that really is the so false heroes, but it's also the name of the band. It's the idea of the marble ghosts, the statues of the past that that still kind of rule our conscious. And uh, it was it was it sort of originated from the what had happened in Montreal,
Mm.
basically, where they had taken down a statue of Johnny MacDonald, decapitated it actually, and they were just sick and tired. It was like, okay, well, you're not going to do anything about it. Well, the people are going to decide, and we're going to take this down. Like Johnny MacDonald, and like I went to school for history, so I will never say don't teach history.
Hmm.
So I would never say like don't teach about the fact that Johnny MacDonald was a father of Confederation, that his government's policies helped to connect Canada through the railway. Uh, it it But at the same time, he was also the father of the residential school. So the whole idea of false heroes is um, essentially, why are we putting these people on pedestals? You can teach it, but why are we celebrating them? Why are we celebrating this kind of, we're romanticizing the idea of these figures that were tremendously racist. Yes, the time was racist, but again, not everyone is getting a statue, right?
Yeah.
So, um, again, teach the history, but within that curriculum, we have to point out the faults as well. And, the whole idea of him calling it the Indian problem, his government, uh, purposely, I can't remember who was his government. And I mean, he's not the only one. Obviously, Laurier after him didn't do anything, and the
Hmm.
last one closed in 1996. So, nobody really knew what to do. Indigenous people still make up way too much of our prison population. Um, a lot of that coming from the residential schools and a sort of a like a systemic circle of abuse, essentially. So it's the idea is again like teach the history, but don't romanticize it. Don't put these people onto pedestals. Confederate, like Southern generals that were terrible people, that were slave owners. Why do they have statues? Bring them down. Columbus, things like that, where like Columbus is one of the most romanticized. The idea that he discovered America and things like that. The more you look into his history, the more that's come out that historians have uncovered. There shouldn't be a Columbus Day,
Hmm.
and some country like they're moving away. They're moving away from that because to me it's like fine, like yes, teach the history, but let's celebrate other people. Let's celebrate, how many other people, why are we celebrating someone that, yes, a father in Confederation, yeah, but, why can't we celebrate someone like Terry Fox? Why
Yeah.
can't we celebrate, like, yes, let's get more statues of Terry Fox, you know? Um, it's, so yeah, that's the whole idea of sort of romanticizing that and avoiding falling back into, oh, weren't things so good back then? Depends who you were,
Yeah.
right? If you were a man and if you were white, then things were fantastic, right? So it's the whole idea too of, let's go forward and not backward in our thinking. And that's why what we're seeing is just so sad. It's really heartbreaking what we're seeing in the United States, and I mean less so in Canada, but even the person who will likely be our next prime minister
Hmm.
doesn't seem to accept trans people, and that is worrisome. That's really worrisome. That that someone who more than likely is going to be the leader of our country that, no mention of course, of trans men in men's washrooms, but always vilifying trans women,
Yeah.
and making it seem like there is no safe space for them. And this is, again, this is the the leader of the party that will likely form the next government in Canada. Fuck you. Fuck
It's
you, man. Seriously.
yeah.
Like, why? You don't have to win that way. Like, you don't. And you could win without that. But he's talking too about, the whole idea of religion in schools and things like that. And, I was talking to my bandmate about that the other day because I can't stand Poilievre. Obviously, like, the idea that, he's one of those politicians that uses woke as a derogatory, where it just means acknowledging your privilege, acknowledging what was, and, trying to evolve. And, the idea of being anti-woke is just being unsympathetic, being ignorant. That's really what it is, and not accepting what past governments, what people have done in the past. So when I saw that, I was really really saddened by it, because it's it's not the step in the right direction. It's very very regressive, and honestly, it's extremely ignorant,
Hmm.
because, like, these people are going to exist regardless of whether you shunt them. And the whole idea of safe spaces and things like that, you're removing those spaces. You're making it more likely that these people are going to kill themselves, that they're
Well,
going to harm themselves, that they're going to be unhappy because they don't feel like they have a place. And when politicians, one of the biggest party except for the Liberal Party in Canada, says essentially that I don't accept trans people, fuck you, man. Fuck you. I don't accept you.
yeah.
That's
Well, I feel
exactly it. Like, I I very much support the idea of a progressive society,
yeah.
and I don't like the way that we've been moving. And I want to make that clear through the lyrics. Like, um, the like, end of the world is about climate change and about late stage capitalism, and the
Hmm.
idea that, we've got these billionaires that it's like they're the most powerful people in the world, essentially. And the really sad thing about it is some of them are batshit crazy,
Yeah.
and they don't care about people at all.
Hmm.
And they would rather, blast off to Mars than fix what's wrong here.
It just
It's yeah.
it shows they have way too much money, that they, a lot of them could be using. There are a couple that do use money to help people, but
Yeah.
you don't hear about it, or they don't put it out there. But then there's these ones that are multi-billionaires that they have all this money to burn and they could be helping people.
Yeah, I mean, one of them lost $31 million last year and was still the richest. Sorry, $31 billion, and is still the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
So, like, the people, and again, like, that's false heroes too,
Hmm.
right? Is that we shouldn't be putting people like Elon Musk on pedestals. And I hope that he has a Bill Gates moment, because I mean, Bill Gates was a huge asshole in
Yeah.
in the 90s. Like, he was extreme. Like, when they were trying to split Microsoft up, through the because of the monopoly. Um, they, you know, I hope that Elon Musk has his Bill Gates moment, because Bill Gates is the way, he's got his society, he's got his charity, and they've done incredible things for vaccinations, for clean drinking water in different countries. he, you know, puts money into all of these causes that aren't just like buying Twitter. Buying
Hmm.
Twitter so Nazis can go on Twitter.
I know.
Cool. Cool. Imagine what he could have done with the amount of money that he spent on stupid Twitter.
I
Like
know.
it's it's unbelievable. But yeah, like so I think the biggest thing is, and because I'm already thinking about the next, obviously we are already thinking about the next EP.
Yeah.
Uh, and you know, a couple of the reviews that have come out have said like, well, you know, they really were aggressive on you know old school, but then the rest of it kind of petered out. And yeah, I get it with like Lie to Me and Alone. Alone is a lot more kind of like an internal like introspection, but I think the other ones are just as biting and like False Heroes and definitely like End of the World is
Yeah.
extremely biting. So that's really what I'm hoping for the next one is, you know, just kind of pushing that. Uh, I don't know if there's going to be something as controversial as old school. Um, I wrote that really shortly after, I guess, Roe v. Wade was defeated, so it was very raw. So
Yeah.
I think that's what kind of came out. But for this next one, um, we've already got a couple. We've already got a couple written, so it's we're going to start working on them pretty soon. So I'm excited about it. The guys are really excited about it, and we are yeah. Again, just trying to send this message to try to empower people, not try to piss them off necessarily, but get them to think. Well, I mean, again, unless you're a member of the Baptist church, then I don't really care.
Well, the thing is, it's like you just keep doing what you want to do, and people, no matter what you do, people are going to be pissed off or they're going to be like, what does that matter to you, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
and people forget this is your first EP, right? Like with this band, this setup. So I mean, it's pretty good. You got a lot of people talking at least, and I was really impressed with it, and I liked it. So. Do you have anything like Bandcamp, Spotify? Where can people purchase the album? And
Yeah, we're on Bandcamp,
okay,
and people have been buying it. I was really happy to see that. I thought honestly that that was kind of dead, but if the best way, honestly, because I see it come in, and it's like you're funding the next EP
yeah,
by doing
that's good.
that. You
Yeah,
know, you're funding us with our merch, and all of the money that comes in goes back into the band. Like that's so yeah. Like we've got a Spotify. Uh, obviously, yeah, we're on all the streaming services. We have a YouTube where we've been posting like visualizers, mostly making of the EP, but we're also going to start to post kind of like drum playthroughs, guitar playthroughs, and
okay.
things like that. And then there's going to be TikTok, and our TikTok has nothing on it right now, but the TikTok is going to be easily the most controversial. Like we're going to be pushing the messages. I got full permission from the guys to push the messages on there. Our Facebook and our Instagram are very much kind of just neutral, like announcements and things like that. But this is going to be where we're going to push the envelope and continue to get that message out there and try to empower people.
Well, I wish you all the luck, and I'll be following along. And I actually just posted up the information about your EP just today, so it should be up on our site too.
Awesome. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Yeah, talk to you later. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.